everyone. Welcome to another episode of the J&J Power Hour. We're here. We're finally doing this topic that we've been teasing for a couple of weeks. Me and JPJ just talked about wrestling and the draft and everything like that. I know the draft will be over by the time this comes out, but I mean, we could have a whole episode on what we think about, not in a completely negative way, just not even the draft itself. We like the concept of a draft, guys, but who knows what will happen with that. But by Thursday, it might be all greener pastures and everything will be fine. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? We're recording this literally just before Raw, so who knows what will happen with that. But hope everyone is having a nice day. Hope everyone's having a nice night, whenever you're listening to this. Thanks for all the love on the last couple of episodes. They've been fun to do, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. So I'm glad, I when you told me the idea, like I said on the first show, I was like, this is going to be just a fun show. I feel like you and I, the way we chat, we kind of go, we'll talk about one thing and it kind of just spreads to everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. Even I think that's why once you had the idea and like, you were like, hey, I think we would be good to do something together. Like, yeah, man. It's been a lot of fun because I feel like, I just met you like virtually. I met you 4 or 5 months ago, and I feel like we talk like we've known each other for
a long time,
right? So a long time. So it fits. I'm excited. And we talked about it in the first episode. I'm excited to talk about other things besides just wrestling all the time, and somehow like. I know most of the time it might always end up going back to wrestling.
Everything is pro wrestling, so.
Right? Yeah. But no, it's good to just talk about different topics and just different opinions. Yeah, dude, it's been a lot of fun, and then we've gotten good feedback so far. And yeah, dude, it's exciting. I'm excited about what categories or questions and stuff we'll be talking about in the future because I think we can both come up with some pretty cool things to talk about. So
yeah, I agree. Before we get into what we're talking about today, man, oh man, I am still. So it's Tuesday morning for me. It's Monday night for you when we're recording this. But I have come off a very big weekend. Last week it was you coming off the wedding and everything like that. This week it's me. I still feel like I'm trying to catch up from the weekend. Even like a couple of days out of your home, and you're just like, what day is it? I don't understand what's going on. Like, I tried to catch up on some things on Sunday afternoon, and then yesterday I was just like, I'm too tired to do anything, so I just sat around on my ass and did nothing. And today I woke up and I'm just like, okay, record this show, get back on, do some things around the house a little later this afternoon. But I'm just like, why is it that when you're just out of your house, I was out of my house for 48 hours and I just feel so behind on life. Why? I think it's just because I just said goodbye to everything and I went away to the city and I'm just like, this is just, I don't care about my life at the moment. I just want to focus on what I'm doing. But it's exhausting being away. It really is.
It is. It's like a true like escape from reality.
Yeah.
Almost. You're like in this little, whether it's 48 hours or a long weekend or a week, whatever you're doing, it's like you're in a different world. It's not your everyday normal world. So when you get back home and kind of reality sets back in where you're like, oh, it's back to normal life now. Like I go back to the things that I normally do every day. It's like, and it takes a little bit to kind of get out of vacation mode, or holiday mode, depending on where you are in the world. And it's kind of, okay, now it's back to the same old, rigmarole of day to day, whatever, you know? So yeah, those first couple days, 2 to 3 days back from a vacation are always the toughest.
Yeah.
Always the toughest. And the day before you're leaving as well. The day before you're going.
Thursday was just like, I'm going to pack my stuff, get away, get everything ready I had to make sure Giddy was fine because there was someone coming to watch her. And I'm just like, okay, like just doing my little things. So then I sat down on Thursday night. I'm like, okay, I'm all good. But you're in that kind of zone of like, I'm leaving tomorrow. Have I packed everything? Have I done anything? I don't want to forget anything. Then when you actually leave and you're traveling, it takes me about an hour to get to the city of Adelaide. I'm just in the car, just like, okay, have I packed this? Have I done that? I'm a stress head, so I'm just constantly like in that zone of like, oh my God, what have I forgot? What have I done? Even coming home, I'm like, have I left anything at my friend's house? Have I done this? It's literally nowhere. It's like so easy for me to get my shit if I left something at my damn friend's house. It's not like I'm staying in a hotel. But like, it's just, that's the kind of zone. And then yesterday I was just exhausted because I basically did 2 days of drinking, being not sitting, like I was just walking around, going shopping,
Yeah, doing
spending
like
a lot of
yeah.
money, eating a lot of shitty food as you do when you're on holiday, you know, big, huge meals. It was just like that for 2 days. So
And
I
you guys lost an hour too, right? Did you have daylight
mhm.
savings time this weekend as
So
well?
Saturday night we went to bed. I was pretty drunk. Woke up at like 5 a.m. because that would be like 6 a.m. because we lost the hour at some point in the night for daylight
Yeah.
savings. And then that throws you out as well. You're like, what time is it? I don't like, when every
Yeah.
year you do, or every the two time changes, you're always just like, I don't like it because it's light till like 7:30 at night. And you're like, when do I need to go to
Where
sleep?
am
Because
I?
I'm so
Yeah.
confused. And because I traveled on that day, being in the car exhausts me. I know it's like first world problems here, but even just going in the car exhausts me. I'm just like, it's tiring, like having to drive and then do all these
Yeah.
things. And it's just like, oh my God. But it was fun. And it's so weird when you're out of your home, all you want to do is be like, I just want to go home. I feel weird. I want to go home. And then when you get home, you're like, all you want to do is go back. It's so,
Yeah, you're
you're
like, "Oh,
never
I wanna go back
satisfied.
to that." Yeah.
You're never
No, never.
satisfied. But it was
No.
fun. I had a good time. I was posting a lot on Twitter because I spam everything on Twitter. But it just, I got home and I'm like, I've spent so much money, like so much money. It's so easy, and
Yeah.
I didn't even
Oh, yeah.
buy that much stuff. It was just time you buy food and you're buying drinks, and then you're like,
Oh,
oh
well,
shit,
drinks
yeah.
will put a dent in the wallet,
Especially in the
real
city.
quick.
Whew.
Yeah.
When you go
You
into a
go to a yeah,
city,
yeah, a $4 drink maybe in your neighborhood bar becomes an $8 drink in the city, and then you're like,
and I was
"All
buying,
right,"
like,
and then you wait
cocktails as well and
and
stuff
there
like
you go,
that.
and
It's
you wake up the next day and
expensive.
you're like, "Oh, I bought a round for everyone in the bar? Oh my
Mm.
god, what? I spent $200? What? What?" You know? And it's like,
The
"Cool."
worst thing about this whole
Like,
weekend for me is that Saturday night was our like heavier drinking night, I guess you could say. And I come home when I woke up on Sunday morning. The first thing I noticed that I did, I was like, I know something I did awful last night because I smoked a cigarette because you could taste
you
it
could
in,
taste it.
and I'm
Yeah, you could
like, that's
taste it.
disgusting because I don't like smoking cigarette. I probably smoked like 3 cigarettes in my whole life, and you just taste it in your mouth, and there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do to get rid of it. It's just like, how do people
No.
do this all the time? I don't understand how you can
Mhm.
smoke cigarettes. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, health concerns aside, just like, what is that? I just knew as soon as I woke up, I'm like, ugh, I smoked a
Yeah.
cigarette. This is
Yeah.
disgusting. I hate
And you're
it.
like, "God, I need to brush my teeth. I
And
need to
I
get
was
out
just
of
like
here."
scrubbing my teeth. My friend wakes up
Yeah.
and
I'm
she's
like,
like, what are
"Get
you
it
doing?
out."
I'm like, I think I smoked a cigarette last night because all I can taste is like nicotine or whatever the fuck is in
Yeah,
cigarettes.
yeah, black tar or
It's
whatever the
just like,
hell's in those
yeah.
things nowadays.
How do
Yeah.
people smoke cigarettes, by the way? They literally, like, I don't understand how they're still, like, legal, to be honest. Like,
So,
not legal, but,
yeah,
like, you can just go into a grocery store and buy cigarettes. It's so weird.
yeah, yeah. So my thing was like when I was younger, my mom had smoked cigarettes almost my whole
And
life,
my
and then
dad did
she ended
too.
up getting yeah, and then she ended up getting sick, like not from the cigarettes, but she ended up getting cancer,
Yeah,
and she hasn't smoked since
yeah.
for obvious reasons. Duh. Um, I think for like older people, when cigarettes were when they were younger, like my parents were younger in the 70s,
Mhm.
right? Nobody knew
Yeah.
what we know now, right? So like cigarettes were cool, it was the
Mhm.
cool thing to do, blah blah blah. So like I don't really fault those people as much,
No.
but like when I see young people now smoking cigarettes, I'm like, you know those are going to kill you. You
And they're
know. Like
expensive. Like, how
they're
do you
super expensive.
afford that? Because I
Yeah,
can't.
like it's like one of those things where it's like we have like there's facts, like there's scientific and facts that like those things are going to affect your health in not a good way.
Mhm.
And like, dude, I get it. Like you and I both work in industries that are very stressful, especially now, super stressful, super fast paced, super high, like paced, like things like that. So I get the stress part of it. I get the relieving stress part of it. I understand that. But with what we know now, you know that is going to have if you do it for a long period of time, that's going to have major effects on your health.
And not only that, I
100%
don't know
losing,
how it works in the
you know?
States, but on the back of our cigarettes is like warning labels, and there's like pictures of
Yeah.
people that have, been in hospital because of cigarettes. Like, it's by
Oh,
law,
no,
you
it
have to
doesn't
put them. on here.
It doesn't show pictures in the States. It just has like the Surgeon General warning that's like, hey, this
It's
can cause cancer, basically.
The whole back of a cigarette packet in Australia has to have a big red warning label with a picture of someone that's been fucked up, from cigarettes.
Really?
And
Oh
then
no,
a whole back of it
we don't get the
is.
pictures here.
So it's
We
meant
don't
to
get the
deter
pictures here. We
people,
just
but
get
like
the label.
it is so expensive. Working in a grocery store, and when people buy cigarettes, I'm like, on the wage that I make, there would be no way I'd be able to maintain that lifestyle of smoking cigarettes. There's just no way I could do it. I don't understand how people do it, but I know I did it once in that weekend. I'm like, no, because I was drunk. Obviously, I'm just like, yeah, I was smoking. Probably, I don't remember, but I was just like, whatever. But disgusting, just gross. But all in all, I'm home now. I feel like I'm getting back in a routine of being back at home. I miss Giddy like fucking crazy. Animals are the worst to leave.
Well, that was my thing when I was away at the wedding last weekend. My cat Lou, I call him. The whole time I was like, I want to hope Lou's okay.
That's
I
what I
left
was
him
like.
a lot of food. I have like a water bubbler fountain that always goes, so I know like he was taken care of. And I was only gone for less than 48 hours. I was like a day and a half total time or whatever. But the whole time I was like, hopefully Lou's all right. Hopefully he didn't tear the apartment down. Like hopefully he's good. And then the first thing I did when I walked in here is I like put my bag down and I was like, Lou. And then he just came around the corner. I was like,
Giddy was pissed at me. She was hissing
here.
at me, and she was like, "Leave me again, bitch." She was not having any of it. Like my sister was here to make sure she was fine. Like she lives across the road, so she was like, in and out to make sure that Giddy was fine. But Giddy was angry at me for like a couple of hours. She wouldn't come near me.
Why would you leave me?
She was like, "This bitch," or she was mad that I was home. I'm not really certain of which answer is right yet, but oh well. We are talking about some stuff today as we get into today's topic. I said from the very beginning, even before this idea was even in my head of what we're going to do for a show, I want to talk about Britney. And it seemed like the stars have kind of aligned with everything with this new Britney documentary that's out on Netflix that came out last week. We both had the opportunity to watch it. We both had a little bit of a chat before we went before we recorded today to kind of give our a very small little teaser of what we think about it. But we're gonna be discussing what was the moment that we noticed something was going wrong with Britney Spears, whether it be from a conservatorship point of view or just in the media outlook on Britney. Something was going on, and we both realized it probably at different points. But before we get into what was kind of going on with Britney before all this, say from Britney when she first came in 1998, I believe, when Baby One More Time came out, to about 2004, 2005, when things started to spiral a little bit for Britney. A lot of things became less about Britney's career and more about Britney's life in the tabloids, I guess you could say. But Britney, I grew up listening to Britney Spears. She was at that ripe age for me where I was like 4, 5, going into 9, 10, 11. Like that was the kind of Britney time period where I would say Britney was the biggest pop star in the world. There was no one bigger than Britney Spears at one point. Like shit was like night and day different of like everything 100%. That Britney was doing was being followed, which is, again, we're going to get into paparazzi and the media's kind of take on this. But what was your outlook? I don't know how much of Britney you were like.
I was in 7th grade. I was going to say, I was 13.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I don't like that type of, like, at the time, I was 13 years old. You remember Total TRL? Did you have TRL?
Yeah, TRL,
okay.
Yeah.
MTV TRL.
Yeah.
I was the guy that was rooting for Korn
and
Limp Bizkit to knock the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. And my sister, who the wedding a couple weeks ago, she's like 2.5, 3 years younger than me. So she was into Britney, Christina Aguilera, NSYNC, Backstreet Boy, all those people. Backstreet Boys were her favorite, but she was a big Britney person. So, and they were everywhere.
Britney Spears was pop culture. That song came out, Baby One More Time, was monstrous. Like for female pop singers at that time, it was a little different than it is now, where really pop music is dominated by females, has been for the last however long. But at that time in the late 90s, I mean, there was Madonna.
No, I was going to say, you had Madonna. But other than that, I
Like
feel
a
like it
pop, like
was
kind of sexualized kind of spot. Like
oh
Madonna
yeah,
was it.
it. Yeah, she was the one. Mariah Carey was still around,
Yeah,
but
Mariah Carey.
you
Yeah,
know, Mariah Carey was still like in her height, I would say.
yeah,
But
she
I felt
definitely
like Mariah Carey was more of the she was
powerhouse
clearly a good
vocalist.
yes, she was clearly a good-looking
Oh
person, and
yeah,
she did dress like, sexualized, but it wasn't to the extent of Madonna
Madonna.
or when
From my
Britney got a
understanding,
little bit
see
older.
Madonna. I obviously know Madonna, but like Madonna is her peak was before my
You
time.
were born. I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was most of it was arguably like before my time.
So
So by the
Madonna
time
was
I could
huge.
understand like what was going on, you know what I
Madonna
mean? So
Madonna changed a lot of things, like because women at that point weren't. She was sexualized in a way, but she was empowered by it. I think in a lot of
correct.
ways, like she was owning her sexiness, which women
Yeah,
weren't
she
doing.
she
We weren't
she was
allowed to
she
do.
was exactly like you just said. She was sexy and she was sexualized, but it was on her terms.
Hmm.
She was like, I know I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I want to
It's
do this, not
empowering
because
to her.
correct. Yes. And she was really one of the again, and I'm only speaking of someone who
It
the
was,
mid
yeah.
90s when I was like 10. So
Mm.
that's when you first kind of start understanding a tad more of
And you get
stuff like
more of
that,
a
I guess.
vibe of like what music is it's not just like sounds, it's like it's actually like, oh, I
Yeah.
like this kind of. That's when I started to first discover music, was or probably a little bit earlier because my brother's so much older than me, so I had such a heavy
Yeah.
influence to what. And he was like you, he was rooting for a lot of like the rock music. He
Of
liked
course. Yeah.
rock
Yeah.
music.
The rock music. Yeah.
He was that. But when you're a kid, it's just whatever's on, whatever's mum's got
On a
on,
pop radio. Yeah.
whatever's on radio. Especially at that time, radio was even. I know we've got an
It
age
was,
difference, but I was the generation just before, as a kid, just before all the streaming and stuff
yeah.
like that. I was the
iTunes
last
or whatever
generation.
was. Yeah.
Like as I got into high school, iTunes was. I remember getting an iPod Nano and being like, "What the
Oh, yeah.
fuck is this? Like, holy shit!"
Yeah. This is
And 8
crazy. You
gig of
could play
music,
everything in a
and you had to put the
button. Yeah. It was
CDs
just,
into iTunes or buy it off of iTunes
yeah.
and then
I
put it
was,
onto your
I was,
thing.
when I was in high school, I had the 64 flap CD player of like, where I keep all my CDs.
Like
Half of them were
the
burned and
case,
half
yeah.
of them were, yeah, I know. I
And
just be like, what are we
horrible
listening
quality
to?
when you find like
Oh yeah, just
LimeWire
trash.
and
Like,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah, Napster at
god,
the
yeah,
time,
oh my
LimeWire, all
oh my
those
god.
things.
And you like look at it and it was like baby one more time .xex and you're like, what is this? And then it's just like
Yeah,
infected your computer with garbage because
yeah,
like you don't know, you just click on it and you're like,
no,
or it's like garbage quality where it sounds like it's coming through like a speaker, like someone's recorded it and you're like, but that was the time, wasn't
yeah.
it? It's so we're
Oh
we're
yeah,
so lucky when you think about. I was thinking about this on the car ride home, and I'm like, I had Spotify on, and I'm just like, that I don't have to store anything on this. I just have to click a
nope.
button, and virtually and theoretically, any
Listen to
song that I want to
you
listen
want to.
to is on a
Yep,
streaming service, and I can just go, boop, and it's done.
it's there.
But in the time I grew up in, time you grew up in, it was even between us, it's very different. Like I remember having a Sony like Walkman or a
Walkman.
Discman,
Yeah,
and you
Discman.
had
Yeah,
like you could put your and that was like, I mean, it was
next level.
huge, but like I remember getting one of those
That
for
was next level.
Christmas and being like,
Yeah,
oh my god, I could put on my favorite CD and put this on and walk around with it, and you don't have to be at like
yeah.
a what's it called, boombox, I guess, or whatever it was called.
Boombox. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a big carrying a
Hmm.
big
So you don't have to
stereo or
do
whatever.
that, and like you don't have to have it plugged in. It just takes batteries. It
Hmm.
was like the best thing ever. But that time, to be honest, having a Walkman or a Discman, you'd put that shit in, and you'd put it on those compilation CDs that they'd bring out. And they'd have all the hits. It was called
Oh yeah.
So Fresh here. I don't know what it was called.
I think it was called Now,
We
like
had Now as
Now. Oh, you
well,
had
but
Now?
but
Okay.
So Fresh was
Yeah.
like, I think the Australian equivalent. But you would put in
Gotcha.
that disc and it'd be like the hits of winter 2002, and it would be like Avril Lavigne, and Britney was
I
definitely
loved Avril
probably
Lavigne.
me too. Britney was definitely in that time 2002.
Oh,
She was
easily.
probably like riding that wave of like peak. But back to Britney in the 90s and growing up and stuff like that. Like Britney when Baby One More Time came out, and then that album came out, and then she had Oops, I Did It Again at like the very
Hmm.
beginning of 2000. Like she was
It.
she was the world's sweetheart at that stage. Like there was nobody. She was young. She was, I mean, 16 or something when Baby One More Time
Yeah.
came out, And then by the time she was reaching her like peak, she was like 18, 19 years old. You could already see the writing on the wall with that kind of stuff, can't you? Because it's like, you are young and you are not just
famous.
You're not famous. You are probably at one stage the most famous person in the world.
Yeah. Like an immediate icon, like immediate. Like it felt like that, you know, like MTV would base their whole music award shows like around her performances. And back then the MTV award shows were like
They were huge.
important. They
They
mattered.
don't anymore.
No, they don't. But like, you know, if
The
she was
snake.
performing,
Everyone
or
remembers the
yeah,
snake.
with the "I'm the Slave for You" with the snake and stuff like that, like all sorts. And even me, someone that, again, when she came out, I was 13 years old. She was 16. Clearly like I liked her for other reasons at the time. I was a 13-year-old boy. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's natural.
Yeah.
So I liked her for other reasons, but regardless of whether I liked the music or not, she was immediately thrusted into this is the biggest music star on the planet type territory immediately. And I think of myself when I was 17 and 18 years old and how I could even like try to think of how I could handle all that. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to.
There's
like,
no way
just,
you could. How could you?
No, your whole life is that you go outside, camera, like it's just, there's no more normal life. And for someone who's 16 or 17, that's too early. That's too early to not be having some sort of normalcy.
And not only that, like so we'll fast forward a little bit here just for the interest of time, but when "I'm a Slave for You" come out and she was this grown-up Britney and she was sexier and all that, because she come away from like the
she was an adult, I would say.
Yeah, she was an adult.
Presenting herself
as an adult. And everyone was like, she's a slut and she's a whore. You know how everyone treats women in this society. But to be honest, she's 21 years old. Any person, male or female, goes through that transition of like, I'm not a child anymore. Treat me like a full-grown adult, because we've all been in that stage. She's just growing up. And because she's in that spot, when "I'm a Slave for You" came out, that was 2003, I want to say, I believe so. 2002,
there, I would say.
2002, 2003. Like, she's literally just living her life. Like, she's just growing up and wanting to be treated. And it comes across in her music, obviously, because that's her, I guess, creative outlet to do those things. It's like, everyone was like, now she's this version of Britney. And it's like, she had already been through the Justin Timberlake phase at that point, or was getting towards the end of that. And that was the whole thing, because you didn't treat him the same way you treated her. She was the one that was like, when that relationship ended, that was probably, for me, one of the, maybe not the notice, I think it was the seeds were being planted for what was to come with Britney's life, with the Justin Timberlake situations, because they broke up and whatever happened, but she was the one being attacked in the media, not him. And he had a song about it and everything.
well, I was just going to say, for me, the thing that sticks out, and again, I wasn't a fan of that music, so a lot of the media stuff and a lot of the articles or newspapers, like I wasn't in tune, like I wasn't buying those or reading those, just because I didn't have an interest in that type of music. However, the thing that sticks out to me first of when I was like, was the Crimea River video by Justin Timberlake, because that is clearly Britney Spears or someone impersonating Britney Spears in that video. And that song is basically telling her, I don't give a shit, fuck off. Like, I don't give a shit.
Crimea River,
and
bitch. That's basically what he said.
Correct. And then I know shortly after that, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I know directly the timeline, but like, I remember after that, there was the incident where she kind of like, she had some sort of mental breakdown. She shaved her head and those things. Like, that's the first thing that I remember where it was like, okay, well, like, and at the time I wasn't thinking this way. This is me as an adult now, but like, you know, I was like, okay, there's something like clearly wrong. Back then I was probably of the ilk where I was like, oh, she went crazy.
That's what I was a kid, because that's what media was saying, is Britney Spears is crazy.
Oh, she went crazy.
We're obviously jumping from bit to bit here, but like that Justin stuff, and then how she was treated in the media, how she was portrayed as this person in the media versus how he was portrayed in the media.
Oh,
I
he
mean,
didn't get
he
he
didn't
didn't get
get
anything.
shit. He had a song and then he moved
Nope.
on. She had to live with that for so long, especially when her
Mhm.
music was kind of going through that. We had I'm a Slave for You and that album, and then we had Toxic and everything that come with that. And I mean, speaking of that song, by the way, what a masterpiece of a
Banger.
song. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely
banger.
incredible. One of her best songs, in my opinion. But you go through
I
that,
agree.
and then you start to go into she is reaching a level of fame that is it's completely like you cannot escape from that level. Once you're there forever. And
Mhm.
Britney is at a stage now, especially now with the stuff that's going on, she is at a stage that she will never escape a certain level of fame. She's Britney Spears. Everybody knows who she is no matter what your age. So at that time and going through this, she would get into a relationship with Kevin Federline, and I remember everything with K-Fed at that time. I could tell you this pretty honestly, and I remember this. I didn't know who K-Fed was before he got with Britney Spears. Couldn't tell you who he
Oh,
was.
yeah, I don't yeah, no, me neither. Wasn't he was a dancer of hers, right? A backup dancer?
I think
Is that what it
so.
was?
And then he
Yeah.
kind of reached a certain level of fame. I mean, that to
He beat
me,
John didn't he beat John
He
Cena,
beat
didn't
John Cena.
he?
He I think that to me is probably the moment that I remember most of being like when they got a divorce and it was so messy. And that's when
And
she
about the
started
kids.
the kids. She had kids at that stage,
Yep.
the shaving of the head, the umbrella, which I think a lot of people see that as being like you've literally just lost your mind. I think she was trying to maintain a level of control in her life because she had paparazzi chasing. We watched that documentary. For anyone that hasn't watched this documentary, it's called Britney versus Spears. It's on Netflix. I'd suggest pausing this, going and watching that, and then coming back because we're going to be making a lot of references that we obviously can't. We don't have the time to explain everything. We just know
Mhm.
because we've watched it. So I'd suggest going and watching that and then coming back and listening or watching this. But you seen in that time when she was getting basically harassed by the media, she had paparazzi she was friends with, some that she would enter relationships with, just because like there was probably not a lot of people in her life that knew more about her than the paparazzi because they were literally everywhere, from the shaving of the head and the umbrella through the car.
Car, yeah.
If you're in that situation and you've lost complete control of your life where you can't even go to the damn store without someone noticing who you are or anything like that, you would probably do something similar. I mean, to just gain some
I
kind of
mean,
level of control in your life. Maybe not exactly that, but you would do something of that magnitude to
oh,
say, like,
yeah.
hey, like, I'm a human fucking being. Leave me
Yeah,
the fuck
like,
alone.
yeah, "Can I go grocery shopping,
Yeah.
please?"
Let me
Like,
get
do I
some
you do
gas in my car.
I yeah, like, I'm at that level of celebrity, like, I'm gonna be doing celebrity shit. Talk to me when I'm doing celebrity shit. You
Mm.
don't talk to me when I'm getting gas.
Yeah,
Like,
like
let
when
me
I release
live.
an album, come and talk to me. I'll happily tell
Yeah.
you about my album. I'll happily tell you about. And Britney at that time was, I think, in that time when she was with K Fed, I believe they even said in the documentary, music took a back seat. She was just living,
Oh, yeah.
and she had kids, and that whole, I mean, the divorce of everything got messy there, and
Yeah, it was
custody.
messy.
Like, but the paparazzi, thing I noticed from that, when she was taken in an ambulance and everything like that. And the paparazzi were
Mhm.
basically in the ambulance, but they were hanging off of it, taking
Unbelievable.
photos. I'm like, the girl can't even literally have a mental breakdown without paparazzi being in her business. Like,
Mhm.
it is insane to me that, well, not insane, I don't mean to use that word, but it is, I could see why someone would be driven to a level of not wanting to be on Earth anymore. Because how would
Yep.
you get away from that? There's literally nothing Britney Spears can do to get away. She could go to another country and people would know. Like
Yeah, she's
they
still
knew
Britney
where she
Spears.
lived, and it's just like, it's just so insane that they were that into it. But that's probably the moment for me where I noticed something was going wrong, was just that time period of kind of taking music as a little bit of a backseat, being with Kevin
Mhm.
Federline, the breakup, the whatever you want to call the shaving of the head and everything like that. All of that kind of stuff with the divorce, gaining custody. That was to me when I was like, something is clearly freaking off. Like, it's blatantly obvious that
Yeah.
something is off in Britney's life. Not only that, in that time, that's from like 2005 to 2007. She then released another album in that time. And do you remember when like Gimme More came out and she did that awful performance at the Video Music Awards? And
I
she
don't
like
remember
lip
the
sync.
performance.
She lip synced really badly, and her dancing was not good, and it looked like she was on some kind of drug or
Oh, really?
something. And I was
I
just
don't
like,
remember.
"Ooh, this isn't good."
Yeah, I remember when that album came out, like people were really, and
Excited.
they say it in the documentary. Oh, you didn't like it?
No, well, no, I was saying people were really excited. I don't personally
Oh, yeah,
love
no,
that
people were
out.
excited. Like
Yeah,
a lot of people thought that like it was like some of her best
work.
work at that up until that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So people were excited, like, and she had the song like, Britney bitch and
Yeah.
whatever that was, and that was like, and people were pumped, like, oh man, she's back, and like this is
Her
really
life's on
good and
track,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
Because we knew she'd
Yeah,
been
and
through
then
stuff. Obviously, everyone knew
exactly.
you were living under a rock if you didn't
Exactly.
know.
And then I don't remember that performance. I'll have to go try to search for it after we're done here, and
2007
check it out.
VMAs. Have a look at it when you're done.
Okay. It's not good. Like
it's
you
it's
can tell
it's
something's off.
she's like
Something's off.
You know how Britney has a certain, even she's always been open that she's lip syncing, whatever it is, what it is. But
Yeah.
she's always been, I think she's always prided herself on the fact that she's got good choreography and she can dance. She has a good stage show. I think that's what the idea of Britney is. But it was just like,
Yeah.
she was obviously in a time in her life when it was not good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was
And
2007. So that's just before everything kind of
Well,
starts.
yeah. So I think that whole thing with Federline was the reason where, the father and his group, or just whatever, they were like, okay, we have an opportunity here
Mm-hmm.
to do something, because it's clear that she has a mental health issue, because of everything that's going on. And they knew that they could disguise it as, we need to protect her. And that's how everything started. You said that's 2006, 2007. Well, the
Conservatorship.
conservatorship
Yep.
starts in 2008, right at the beginning of 2008. So like, I feel like that was the precedent to where the documentary starts a little bit. And it's like, yeah, this is really where her father stepped in and said, hey, she clearly can't take care of herself. I need to take over.
Do you think Jamie's motivation was anything more than? Do you ever think there was a stage in his taking this conservatorship role and establishing this, because it was originally temporary? It was originally meant to be like for a little while. Do you think there was ever a motivation that wasn't money driven for him? Do you think there was ever? Obviously, we don't know the relationship between Jamie and Britney. We don't know that. We'll never know that to the extent that we think we know it. But do you ever think it was purely ever just for, I want to take care of my daughter?
I mean,
it doesn't seem that way to me, but you don't know his
exactly.
intention. His intention may have been to help her, and then realizing the amount of money that she's actually making and her team is making, and the amount of money he could make from it, maybe he wanted to keep it that way.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was temporary too, maybe right at first it was like, this is my daughter still. Like, I need to do what I can to protect her.
By the way, before not to interrupt you, but we have to just make clear, if you haven't watched the documentary, Jamie and Lynn were divorced at this stage. They were not together. So when people say, where was Lynn in this situation? She wasn't with Jamie. So it's hard to say what Lynn's role in this was, because if they were together, then there would be a little bit more responsibility falling onto Lynn. But I mean, she's still her mum, but like at the same time, this was Jamie in this. It wasn't Lynn.
Yeah.
But go on. Sorry to interrupt.
I mean, oh no, it's all good. I would say I'm kind of like you. I lean to probably not. Like, it just seemed like it was shady from the jump. But there are something with it being temporary and what she was going through. Like, I maybe could see, like, right at the beginning, he was like, I'm doing this to protect my daughter. And then maybe he saw those first couple paychecks and was like, oh, okay, I'm in charge of all this.
It's
Maybe,
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and
A
I can
lot.
make decisions for her and kind of decide where it all goes and hook myself up and hook my friends up and
Mm.
kind of do what it is we're doing. And then, yeah, I'll also give her a good amount. I mean, to someone like we were talking about it beforehand, to someone like you and me, we'll give her a good amount of money every month in comparison to what she was earning.
It's
No,
nothing. Yeah.
nothing. But you know what I mean? Like, I'll let her, whatever. Like,
It
my
is.
gut tells me that he was probably a shithead from the start,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, that's where I lean, is there was probably bad motives from the start.
It's so weird because there's two types of this agreement. There's the estate, which is controlling all of her assets and her money, basically,
Hmm.
from my understanding. And then there's the person, which is basically taking away Britney's rights as a human being. And I think that even in the documentary, she said to multiple different people, there's multiple different statements said, I can go along with the conservatorship of my estate, my money.
Yep.
What I don't like is them having control of my person, of me as a person. I can't go to the store. I can't have a boyfriend.
Drive her car.
I can't drive a car without
Yeah.
permission from the team or Jamie or the team of people that are in agreement for this thing. That would drive any person to
Oh,
insanity. Even the money thing would drive me insane as well. But the person is like, imagine if I was in charge of you and you had to message me and say, "Hey, can I go to the store?" and I simply just said no. You would not
yeah.
have any legal binding that would tell you that you can just say, "Well, I'm going to the store."
Yeah. No, like if you wanted to, you could call the police and I would get in trouble. They'd be like, no,
You
you don't
don't
have to.
have Britney Spears did not have control of her own human. She did not have control of Britney Spears. She was a piece of furniture at this stage. Like that's how I see
Yeah.
it. As she was just nothing. She was nothing.
No,
But in that
no.
time, too, she did two albums
Hmm.
in the span of 2 years. She did two world tours. She started a Las Vegas residency. She's working
Hmm.
her ass off. Like she's the one making all the money. It's not Jamie making any money in the terms of like she is performing at a very high level. From my
Yep.
understanding, a world tour obviously is what it is. It's a world tour. You're
Yep.
traveling, you're performing, that's taxing on your body. You're making a
Mm.
buttload of money, even in the sense of like if I was doing that, right? If I was Britney Spears making that money, at least in the going, I'm exhausted, but going in my head, I'm making a lot of money off of this. This is going to set me up for the rest of my life, kind of money.
Hmm.
But to be in that sense of like working your butt off, performing at a certain level that for your reputation that Britney Spears performs at, and you're not actually making what you're earning,
Yeah. You're not. Yeah.
like how do you get past that mindset of like, I have to do this because they're telling me I have to do this because I'm not a person
Yeah.
that really has that much of a leeway. But I can't just go out there and stink up the joint. I still have to be Britney Spears. Like these
Of
people
course.
still, whether I'm getting the money or not, people still paid money to see me. How do you get
Hmm.
past that? And then not only that, a Las Vegas residency. Obviously, I don't live in Vegas. I've never been to Vegas. You've been to Vegas once, but from my
Once. Yeah.
understanding, a Las Vegas residency is 3 or 4 nights a week
Yep.
performing the same show.
Yep.
That would be, and she did that for 4 years, I believe they said in the
Hmm.
documentary. Imagine doing that 4 years straight, pretty much for the most part, every single week, doing a similar show. You
Hmm.
would be dead. You would be so
Yeah.
tired. And then at the end of that residency, she then went on tour, did a world
Hmm.
tour of the album in whatever year, Femme Fatale or whatever it was. Then come back and was basically thrusted in 2019 to do another residency with no break in between. She said that in her court hearing. For anyone that hasn't heard
Yep.
that, it's available online. It's in the documentary, but you can go back and you can listen to Britney's, what's the word? Testimony? Is that the right word?
Testimony.
Yeah.
Yep. Testimony.
And you can listen to her what she said. Like, I was tired. Like, I needed a
I needed a
break.
break.
I just
Yeah.
needed to
I
let
needed
my
a break.
body rest. It was out of the zone of even what was going on in her life. She was like, from a performing standpoint, I was just ready to have a break because I think everyone remembers that in 2019 when she re-announced her residency and everyone was like, "It's Britney," and she had this announcement and then she just kept on walking, and everyone's like, that's when I think they even said it in the documentary, but even I remember being like, that's when a lot of regular Joes like you and me just went, what is actually this conservatorship? What is it? Because we don't.
Yeah.
I've heard that word so many times in regards to her, but I truly never knew what it was until a couple of years ago. I didn't know what it meant. I honestly didn't. I just thought, oh, he has some kind of control over what she's doing. That's all I kind of knew. But I thought it was in like a parent kind of way. Like, okay, they've kind of given a lot of, because of her, whatever was going on in her life, they've kind of given him a lot of access and a lot of rights, you know, to make certain decisions for her. I did not realize that it was basically like he was Britney. Like, essentially.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is Britney. He makes all the decisions. He decides where she goes, what's happening, where the money goes. Yeah, I didn't know much about it either. I would say probably, I feel like around that same time, the general public started, like you said, everybody, like the general public started being like, is something like, and again, this goes back to when you're that famous, regardless of whether you're fans of her music or not, you know who she is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Britney Spears is. And if you see her and you're like, something just feels not right about this. Like, what is going on? Like, what is happening here? And then enough people dig into it and ask enough questions. And then nowadays, like that's 2019 or something like that, 2018, 2019, the way social media works and the way people can start petitions, movements, just sort of whatever, that's how you kind of got to where we are now. But I would say, same as you, I felt like I do remember the announcement. I do remember the excitement of like, oh, cool, she's still doing
back
stuff
to Vegas,
out there. Like she's still successful. She's still around, because she had been around, but she definitely wasn't.
She wasn't releasing music at like the same rate, and it wasn't like she was releasing music and the world would stop. Like it was just songs. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But then I do remember, slowly but surely, for someone who like me, who wasn't like looking for Britney Spears news all the time or something like that, I remember hearing certain things of like, no, she's basically trapped, or she's basically like forced to stay against her will, or like I started hearing things like that. Oh, they put her away. They put her in a mental institution, or she's forced to stay at home all the time. Like she can't go out and do things. Like I started hearing things like that. And then it was like, well, that's kind of fucked up. Like, what do you mean? Like, what? She's this famous star. What do you mean she can't do anything? She should be able to do whatever the hell she wants. And it was just like, yeah, no, her dad basically owns her, kind of stuff.
And that's when people started really rallying behind her and was like, this needs to.
And you had the Free Britney moment. You had the Free Britney movement.
And she started posting like really weird videos. Yeah. And it was like, everyone was like, at the start, I was like, haha, this is funny. Like Britney's like, what is Britney doing?
Her
eyes.
For me, I could tell in her eyes. Her eyes looked dead.
She looked like she was a dead. She looked like she was a dead person that just happened to be moving around. And I don't mean that in like she was ugly or anything like that. I just mean Britney is not very old.
Probably.
Britney is 39 years old at the time of this.
She's only a couple years older than me.
And she has
right now.
And it feels like, because she's been around, you'd think, oh, she's 50 years old, like because she's been around for so long. But she's young. And she has been through, she has lost 13 years of her golden years of her life. Years of her life that she can never get back ever. I'm very glad to say that it's over for her now. For my understanding, he's out. And I think the conservatorship is being terminated. Like there's no one in control of her. I think that's as of the last few weeks.
I think technically, is it of the last few weeks? Okay, because I know how the documentary ended was
it was still going.
He stepped aside.
Yeah,
he was like, I'm done, I'm out. But they were still waiting for like judge approval.
I think in the last even in the last week, it was literally like he's gone, and he even stated that I think it should be terminated. I don't think anyone should be in control of Britney's life anymore. And I think that from my understanding, it's done. But I mean, I don't know that for sure. I'm pretty certain Britney's put it on socials that it's over, and now we're just in this state of like moving forward, because I don't think you can just go like one day it's over and then your life's back. It's like, no, you have to then get under control, because not only was it he himself that was on a salary, it was lawyer upon
Oh
lawyer
yeah.
upon lawyer who are expensive,
Mhm.
especially in a very high
Doctors.
profile case.
Yeah.
That before we even end this episode, we have to talk about probably the main thing I took away from that documentary was that psychiatrist man that said,
Oh, that refused to.
I'm not
Yeah.
acknowledging that I met Britney. He must have known so much shit.
Mm-hmm.
He just looked like
Show
an
me it.
evil.
Yeah. He goes, show me my signature, and I will confirm that that's my signature. But all my patient stuff is confidential, so I'm not. And like at first, when they first sit him down, they ask him the first question, and he starts talking,
And then he's
and
like,
then he realizes.
did you say, did I meet Britney? Oh, I'm never acknowledging that I
Yeah,
met
like
Britney
he
Spears.
realizes, I think, like right away when he's starting to talk, like, oh shit, and he does that. He goes, wait, are you saying that I met her? He goes, I'm not admitting that I met her. And they're like, okay, well, we have a court document that says by you, like she was examined by you, and he's like, show me a signature.
And then
Like
he's like,
I'm not gonna sit here.
and he's like, and then I've got to verify that it even is my signature. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. And so it's
that
like,
guy, I
bro,
was like, you're a piece of crap.
yeah, you
And
know.
the assistant
And it
didn't want to
was
say much. Like, she was a very nice lady. I can't remember her name for the life of me. But the assistant that was like, said like, I don't want to
slightly
talk.
older, like the
Yeah,
slightly older
yeah.
woman.
And she was like, I don't want to talk about Jamie. And then they asked her about other things, like about performing. She's like, Britney loves
Yeah,
performing. She's like, I don't want to fight with them. That's all I'm gonna say. And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
there must be so much crap on
Oh
Jamie
yeah.
and just in that whole team of people that people are
Hmm.
too frightened to say. But, why would you want to fight with people? It's not worth it. That she has probably a very normal life, this lady. Like, I don't blame
Yep.
her at all. But the psychiatrist, man, his tone, the way he spoke, I'm like, why not just say, I don't want to talk about it? Why do you have to say,
Yeah.
I'm not acknowledging that I met Britney and I'm not acknowledging
Why
that
do you
I'm
sit
this
down? Why do you sit
talking in
down for the
circles?
interview?
Yeah,
When they
exactly.
reach out to you, if you're not going to frickin' say anything,
Just
when
fuck
they reach out
off.
to you, you just go, "No, I'm good, man. Fuck off. I'm not doing it." Why have them fly you in, sit you down to ask you these questions when you know you ain't saying that's a waste of time. That's a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah,
It's like, dude, like that was very bizarre to me.
it was
And
odd.
like throughout the whole thing, and we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on here, throughout the whole thing, the thing that stuck out to me was in her life, whether it was a paparazzi person that she ended up having a relationship with, or another person that became her manager, or a photographer that she ended up being really good friends with, all these people that knew there was shit was messed up and they were kind of who she could confide to and tell, like, I don't like this, I don't want to be in this, you need to help me. The second that Jamie and his group knew that they could be a problem, they positioned them to the courts as if they were a problem to
Mm-hmm.
Britney. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're dangerous. They're doing this. Oh, they're being like whatever. And they got him out. They
Mm-hmm.
got him out. You're out. See you later. Like that story that I think his name's
Mm-hmm.
Adnan,
Yeah, something like
which
that.
I was her boyfriend for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That story that he tells where they were out and Jamie calls him and is like, "You need to come home right now." And he's like, "No, we're out. Like, we'll come home when we come home." And he was like, "No, you don't understand. You need to come home right now." And
There's
he
police.
knows.
Yeah.
Brittany doesn't, but he knows like they could come and get me if I don't bring her
He's
home right
basically
now.
abducting her.
Yeah, exactly. And he drives her home and he says that she's freaking out. Why are when he pulls up, her father, two cops, and four security guards are waiting at the gate for him. And Brittany starts freaking out.
As you would.
And she's like, well, of course.
Mm-mm.
Brittany starts freaking out. And he has to tell her, and he even said it was devastating. He's like, this is devastation. He needs to tell her, like, you don't understand, like, you being in this car right now with me, it's kidnapping. They could say it's kidnapping and I will go to jail. Like my life will be over. He goes, so what they're saying right now is what has to go. And it's just like, man, like to that point, oh, we don't want you hanging around with my daughter anymore. All right, well, bring her home. You're never seeing her again. And we're going to tell the courts that you were a danger to her life.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're gone. See you later.
The thing I think from me in that kind of same scenario, yes, that, but also the one of the ladies that was working on the documentary, the curly haired lady, when she
Yep.
went to the bathroom to sign, got
Oh,
Britney to
she
sign
cried
that,
when she talked about
and
it. She got
then
emotional.
she, they presented this, and then it was basically like Britney never did that. It's a fake
Yeah.
signature.
We
It's
don't even
like
know if that's her signature.
it was
What?
like
Yeah.
holy shit! Like she really can't get out of this thing, even if she wanted to. Like she even told
Well,
her now ex-fiance, but the guy she was married to who had co-conservatorship with Jamie for wherever time they were together, like
yeah.
he was saying to the people, like Britney doesn't want to do this, like Britney doesn't want to be in this, and there was nothing, like
Nope.
nothing.
Well, and then, you find out as it goes that like she had that lawyer, Streisand, I think was his last
Yeah.
name. She had that lawyer. That's who she picked. That's who she wanted. And they get to the court and they go, yeah, she doesn't get to pick her lawyer. We get to pick it. So see you later. So this guy goes to court,
Mm-hmm.
shows up, ready to go, does his opening statement, or at least his opening, like, hey, we don't think that blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, well, what you say doesn't really matter because she doesn't get to pick her lawyer. And then the lawyer that they give her, the only time we see pictures of this guy is he is walking with and seemed friendly with Jamie Spears' like right hand guy. So it's like this MFer, he's in it too. So he's defending Britney and on Britney, supposed to be on Britney's side, like but he's in there. He made $3 million, they said, that guy, throughout the duration. Her lawyer, the one that's supposed to be fighting for her and defending her and trying to get this ended for her. He made $3 million
And then it's so
throughout this whole
funny,
thing
like
because he was on the fucking payroll too.
it's so funny to me how it's like she eventually got the right to pick her own lawyer. She got that lawyer this year, and within 6 months, the conservatorship is over. Well,
Gone.
theoretically over.
In the process. Yeah.
Because she
Or
got to pick
maybe
a
over.
lawyer.
But,
yeah. Like, because she got to
correct.
pick.
And
Well, at least Jamie's out of the picture. That's what, from my understanding, someone will tell me in the comments, like, is it, if you know, if you're a bit more in depth of this than us, please tell us in the comments, tell us on Twitter, what is the actual status of this? Because even reading from what Britney says and that, I honestly do not know. And there's more people that would be more involved in this story and hooked on this story to actually know the actual reason. But from what I know for certain is that Jamie is no longer involved, which is ace, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's funny how within 6 months this thing has ended when she was actually able to have a lawyer that would do something for her.
Yeah, that would actually, fight and defend for her and be like, hey, you get a conservatorship because you're supposed to be in a situation where you're not liable enough or you're not in a good enough headspace.
The girl was working. If you're
she
able
was making
to work,
records and touring the world.
You're a mum. You're doing all of these things.
Like,
how are you not?
If you can do all that stuff, you should be able to decide.
Because
she couldn't even write checks.
Because
she couldn't do anything.
There's not a lot of these in the world. They said that because it's very once you're in it, it's very hard to get out of it. I know one other person in the celebrity world that's in this, and it's Amanda Bynes. And I don't know how much you know about Amanda Bynes, but everyone kind of knows. We don't know the details, and until we know the details, it's hard to really elaborate because we didn't know all the details with Britney. We just thought she was insane.
Yeah.
Amanda Bynes.
A similar story, though, with Amanda Bynes.
Amanda Bynes, everyone who doesn't know what Amanda Bynes is, she come from All That. She went to the Amanda Show, was a big Nickelodeon star. Really, throughout the early 2000s, was in a lot of, pretty top family movies and, preteen, kind of teen movies. Like, if you remember What a Girl Wants and She's the Man.
She's the Man. That was I remember that one.
She was.
I remember the She's the Man.
Channing Tatum was also in that, and he's what he is now. But she was in a lot of pretty high profile roles, and then a kind of spiral happened, and a lot happened with Amanda Bynes, which we could do we'll probably do a whole nother episode on child stars and stuff, just because we talk so much about Britney, and I don't want to oversaturate anybody. But Amanda Bynes is now in the same. I don't know if it's a step of a person and an estate. I don't know the exact terms. There's less information on Amanda Bynes than there is Britney. So probably in a few years' time, we'll probably have the documentary on Amanda Bynes.
Maybe this is the spark that
other people now go, hey, Amanda's
why don't we look into this one now?
And I think a lot of people would probably even a more crazy story than Britney in a lot of senses, just because we know so much less. Because listen, no offense to Amanda Bynes, but she was never Britney Spears. Like, she was still a celebrity, but she wasn't Britney. So obviously there's more eyes on Britney, but there's not, which is probably a bad thing in the sense of like what Amanda's going through, because there's less eyes on it. So there's less people kind of chatting and looking into it and petitioning and stuff. But we don't know the level and we don't know what is needed for Amanda Bynes, but it's pretty insane. I don't think these things should be a last resort kind of option to be in this, because even people that have gone through their stuff, I mean, again, we'll have another episode on other child stars, but just as we're wrapping up, I think it would be probably not, when we think of people that have had their issues, I think Lindsay Lohan is probably the first one that kind of comes to my brain of just, you look at Lindsay Lohan's success, Parent Trap, and when she was, much younger, Freaky Friday, and she was doing music, and she was she was the poster child for preteen movies. You look at Freaky Friday, and you look at Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, and she did, there was a movie she did with Tyra Banks, I swear to God, I can't think of what it is, but there were so many movies on like the Disney Channel, and that she was the girl. Lindsay Lohan was the thing. And obviously, I think the height of Lindsay Lohan was Mean Girls. And
Mean Girls, yeah.
That was the movie of my generation. Yeah. Like, that was...
As it should be. It's a terrific movie.
Terrific movie. And that's probably when Lindsay Lohan was at... She was...
her height.
Lindsay Lohan, she spiraled and started doing music off of that. And she started doing other things. And in that time is when Lindsay Lohan started to go through her stuff. I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on Lindsay Lohan's trials and tribulations, but she was never in a role like Britney. Like, her life wasn't in control like Britney. And I think there was more other things with Lindsay that were more drug-related problems. But I know some people won't like me saying this, but I don't blame people for that kind of stuff, because you're looking for an outlet. You're looking for something that you can do to forget about what is happening. Because Lindsay Lohan was huge at one stage. Like, Lindsay Lohan was the shit at one stage. And again, she was going through that stage of growing up and be like, she's partying, she's drinking, she's doing drugs. I'm like, every 21-year-old...
she's doing what a 19... Yeah, I was going to say, she's doing what a 20-year-old does everywhere? What?
Everyone goes through that stage of, like, partying. And I'm not saying you're doing hardcore drugs and stuff like that, but a lot of us do. A lot of us are like experimenting with life because it's normal to grow up and be like, oh, someone's offering to do this with me. Yeah, all right, I'll do it. But a lot of us do it for that little period of time and then move on with our life. Lindsay Lohan did that, and then obviously stuff happens, and some people get addicted to these things. And I don't know the whole story with Lindsay Lohan, but she was just doing what every 21-year-old does.
Every person her age is doing. Every one of them.
Let them live their life. But of course, it's on a magazine that's Lindsay Lohan does cocaine. And it's like, well, she's rich and she has access to it. She's probably going to do it. And a lot of people that you think are golden people and don't do it, probably do it. So just because she's in the limelight and she's young, which, by the way, yes, okay, a lot of these are illegal drugs, but she's also 20 years old, 21 years old. And that's what 90% of kids do. So... just calm down, let her live her life. And then, you have that kind of pressure on you. I couldn't imagine it would be fun. But, I mean, we can you had a list of child stars. I had child stars here. And we can have another episode on that just for the pure fact that we talked a lot about Britney for good reason. There was a lot to talk about with Britney. But all in all, I think I can speak for both of us and say I'm just glad that Jamie's out and we're at the end of this thing. So Britney can... go back to doing what she loves, whether it's performing, whether it's making more music, or whether it's just being inside her fucking home and not talking to anybody.
Just
let her do what she wants.
Knowing that, if she wants to go for a drive, she can go.
And she can, have access more to her children, and because there's a whole nother thing with Jamie and the kids, and then you have obviously K-Fed, who is, she wasn't even allowed to have a child in this time. Like, she had something put in her to stop her Yeah, exactly. Like, you invite a friend over.
Like, you know what I mean?
Hey,
like,
come over.
how many? Obviously in that world, but like, how many true friends does she probably have?
You wouldn't be able to make them.
Exactly, because it seems like every time that she found a real friend, they were like,
she's engaged now too. I've seen that too, which is wonderful for her.
So it's like
she's living her life.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing. And yeah, 39 and 40 around there is not the best time to be first feeling like you're living your life in
But
15 years.
hey,
Like that sucks. But it's better than her staying where you know what I mean? Like if she can enjoy the second half of her life and be free and be able to be herself and do the things that she wants to do, like you said, whether it's making another album or doing these things, or it's just like, hey, I have access to my money now. I
yeah.
have access to be what I want, like to do what I want now. Let's go travel the
And
world.
like
Just you and me,
like you're
fiance,
in,
hubby. Like, let's
yeah.
just go,
It's just not saying this in a nasty way, but she is getting to the later part of the life where she can still have kids. She said she
Yep.
wanted to have kids with this guy. So this is
Mm-hmm.
probably the time where she will have a child and she's actually able to have a child. And just again, like if that means going to a Vegas residency and doing what she wants to do, let the woman make her money. Let the woman perform. Let the
Mm-hmm.
woman do what she wants to do because it's not fair on this is just
Yep.
about like Britney now and Britney doing what she wants to do. And that doesn't mean pleasing us. That means pleasing herself and pleasing
Correct.
her people around her. And, I could imagine there would be a nice up yours going on to Mr. Jamie. I could
Oh, I
imagine
would
from
hope.
her.
I would hope.
I
I would
would
hope she never talks to him again.
me too. Whether it's your father or not,
Just
it doesn't matter. He
yeah,
ruined a lot of your life.
correct. He ruined a lot of your life. She was firsthand for it. Like you lived through him basically for the last 13 years, like showing you that like you weren't that like you weren't that important to him because he was running your life that way and he was in charge and stuff like that. So like, and it sucks. It sucks that it's her dad and shit like that. But I hope now she, like you said, she tells that guy, "Hey, f off, get out of here. Like, this is about me now. Like
hmm
you're out. You
Yeah,
know."
I
And I
agree.
don't know. In the documentary, they mention the rest of the family, but they don't talk about the sister. They don't talk about the brother. You see a few pictures of the mom and they mention her briefly, but not a lot. So like I don't know her personal relationships with all of them, but you have said that she's come out publicly a few times and basically said like they haven't helped me either for the
Basically,
most part,
I
or
mean,
at least with their sister, right?
Jamie Lynn come out and said, like, please stop harassing me about this. I have no control over this. But also, you are the only one out of this family that has somewhat of a
Platform.
platform, like a celebrity platform,
Yeah.
to say
You were known,
something.
like she was known at one point.
People know
Like
who
she's a
Jamie Lynn
known.
Spears is,
Yeah.
and you
Defend
didn't
your sister. Come
defend
out
your
and defend
sister
your
if
friggin'
you really
sister.
want to. And Britney basically, I think Britney again. I don't know the exact story, and I could be getting this wrong, but Britney come out and said basically like they've done shit, they've done
Yeah.
nothing to help me.
Yeah.
So
So,
you know,
it's
again,
always
who
sad
knows how
regardless.
much?
Like,
Again,
yeah.
though, we don't know the exact details of everything. We don't know what happens behind the scenes with Lynn and everything of trying to do. They probably have no say in what actually goes on. They have as much say as you or I. So it's interesting. But regardless, I'm just glad that it's at the end and Britney can move on with her damn life. Because no matter
Hmm.
whether you're a fan or not of Britney, of her
Yeah.
music, I think we all can be fans of just being a human being and having rights to be a
Yeah.
human being. Like it would be a
Yeah.
pretty sick
And
person to say that you didn't want that for
and if
her.
she decides, on our way out of here, if she decides that she wants to make more music, just think about like it should make you feel good whether you are a fan of her music or not, that like she's going to be doing stuff on her own terms.
She can do stuff she
And
wants to
she's going to
do.
yeah, like if she wants to make music, it's not somebody telling her she has to do it. It's her decision.
Hmm
She's happy with it and she wants to do it. And that's all you should hope for everybody. Like
Yeah,
you like regardless, like you should hope that people can, like you said, humans can just be human and live your life and
yeah.
just,
That's
do
what we
what's
want.
best for you.
That's all
Yeah.
we want.
So,
But that's going to do us for this week. We hope you enjoyed talking about Britney. Let us know what you think about this whole situation. If you're watching this on YouTube, comments below. Hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are on the screen and they're in the description to the podcast and the YouTube video along. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell, all the stuff that you say when you're on YouTube. If you are listening on the Apple podcast side of things, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. It gets us help us in the algorithms and gets us out to more people. But wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, thank you very much. We'll be back next week with some more stuff. You can catch us every single Thursday, wherever you're listening right now. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the place to do it. Until then, my name's Josh. That is JPJ. I don't know. goodbye, I guess. Goodbye, I guess. See you next week.
Yeah.
See ya.